There are places in VRChat that used to be full of life, voices, laughter, and chaos. Now they're completely empty. Abandoned worlds, frozen in time. What I'm about to present to you is what I'd like to call an amalgamation of dead worlds. These worlds are buried, lost to time. While most of these worlds didn't deserve their fate, some others should stay buried. For example,
Oh, you, I smelled something. Something tiny and tasty. Better start running up that staircase because I'm going to get you.
Why are you going?
I don't know what I'm doing!
Go around in circles!
Ah! Shit! Fuck me! Fuck me! Ah! Shit! What the fuck? I don't fucking know.
as I stand here gazing out into the infinite abyss of abandoned VRChat worlds, I wonder to myself, what's out there? Is there anything worthwhile, something of importance, something that shouldn't be lost to time? I'm not looking for anything in particular. My search is random, and who knows what I'll find. Whatever I do encounter, though, I'll document in this video. The first random destination that VRChat brought me to was the Meat Circus. Now, this is from Psychonauts. I've never played the hit game Psychonauts, but I think I know what a Meat Circus looks like. As soon as I spawned in, I was greeted to a grass area with a lonesome bunny with a whole bunch of chicken coop cages we'll go with. I decided to grab the bunny, as in no man left behind. I then walked down to the abyss and was greeted to this carriage donned with two of my fallen comrades. Now, this was a bad sign, a fortune telling of bad events to come. I shook my head in utter disbelief, and I decided to enter the meat portal. I was greeted to this very nasty hallway with these pink cobwebs. I didn't know where I was at, truth be told. All I knew is that I had to keep going forward. Something was buried here. Upon exiting this portal, I was greeted to this amalgamation of meat, this meat circus, if you will. I was head spinning, meat spinning even. There was a pig's head on a skewer, another ham bone, and this weird bug playing the flute. I clicked on him, and I was brought back. That means I had to go back through this nasty meat tunnel. I felt like I was in that one scene of the boys walking down this carnivorous tunnel.
Get to the prostate.
I was back at the Meat Circus. I entered the tent, and lo and behold, I was in another area. What greeted me was the Tunnel of Love, the Tunnel of Meat. Something very nasty lied here. I looked around at this infinite dark green swirling abyss, and there was circus props and meat everywhere. I didn't know where to go, so I decided to attempt to do some parkour in VRChat, failing miserably and falling into this infinite abyss. I strategically left to go find another random world. I didn't rage quit. There was more to explore, and I could not be held up on such minuscule meat circuses. There was more out there. I had to find out what. My next randomly selected world that VRChat put me in was something called Halloween Town 2. Now, the first one must have been really good, so the second one was made. Now, unfortunately, like most sequels, this one fell short. I don't know where I was at. I felt like I was in a Walmart version of Shrek Swamp here. I continued to march forward through these 2D trees and 3D pumpkins. The moon was kind of geeked out. I didn't know what was going on with him. I found this graveyard and decided to enter it. There on the tombstones lied some Reddit tier jokes we'll go with. There was this one Fent tweaker in the graveyard. I tried to communicate with him, but sadly he did not speak English. All he was asking for was $1. Sadly, I was broke. I don't have any pockets. I spent my last dollar buying a ticket to that meat circus earlier. He was very pissed off about this and tried to bite me, and he continued crawling on. Average day in San Francisco. I decided to let him mosey on by. I wasn't going to bother. He was on a quest of his own to find more Fent in this VR abyss, hopefully harassing the next passerby as they continued on. I came to this monolith, and I did the first logical thing that came to my head. I lifted up the coffin to disturb its occupant. After breaking into the skeleton's private domicile, After breaking in, I unfortunately kept slipping up and down on top of the skeleton. I decided to show the skeleton what he was missing in the modern-day world. This surely pissed him off, and he told me to get out, quote unquote. I then ran into the skeleton's brother, who asked if I had any games on the phone that I showed that video to the skeleton earlier. Not wanting to rack up a crime spree in this Halloween town too, I decided to get out of there as fast as I could, going to the next residential house. Upon entering this not private domicile, there was a broom out front. I decided to take it in. Maybe I would help clean this occupant's house. It clearly was dirty. Inside of this house, there was a box that kept turning. I was expecting a spooky jester to pop out and do a little jig for me. Unfortunately, that never came, so I had to break into its shell and see why it had stage fright. I couldn't see much. However, the jester was right there. Little white head, I would assume, like covered in blood. It looks a little brown for blood, though. Maybe that's why he was hiding. Who knows? I decided I had my fill of this house, and finally, as I turned my back, he jumped down and he caught me by surprise with his red nose so bright. He could lead the way tonight, as I exited his house and left him in complete isolation, where he belonged. I looked at the moon again as it was looking at me, and it looked even weirder than before. I then moved on to the next residential home, and not wanting to wait an entire hour for the box to open up, I decided to peek into this one too. This clown, however, had a lot more detail, a lot more stuff going for him. This clown clearly mocked the other clown in that Jacko box, or whatever the kids call them nowadays. Inside, this man was holding a bomb. I could only assume that he might have been Islamic in nature. Who really knows, though? He then popped out, and luckily he didn't shout Allah Akbar, or else this video would have ended prematurely. Instead, he just stared at me. We kind of stared at each other for a little bit, and I moved back and forth, trying to intimidate this man. However, he had a steely gaze on me, he was mogging on me with his chin. I could tell that he was mewing at the same time, so defeated, I let him go away, and I turned around and I left. Finally, I made it to the last house, expecting another box. However, I was not greeted to a box. Instead, I was greeted to the father of the Fent Fiend earlier in the graveyard as he jumped at me, thinking he's a Black Ops 1 crawler. After I turned the power on, I quickly called this ghoul a ghoulish slur. Kick that phantom off the plane.
Sir, please stop. You need to stop. There are ghosts and ghouls aboard this plane.
Apparition. And I was on my way after mogging him a couple of times. I then left this residential home and went further into the forest. Perhaps there was a little sliver of humanity that remained in this desolate place. Everyone that I'd encountered before didn't speak English, or they were too busy being a cellulite. I decided to keep trekking through the forest, hopefully not getting jumped by Shrek or Shia LaBeouf out of the corner of my eye. Then I spotted 4 Michael Jackson impersonators, all moonwalking towards their next destination. One by one, I went by, looked at each one. Our first occupant had white skin, and he looked a little rough on the edges. Something had happened to him, something that I didn't want to stick around and find out what. The next one, kinda hot if she wasn't a zombie. Oh, never mind, I spoke too soon. A very ugly face with the red head. I'm gonna move on. I'm not into the Irish, unfortunately. The third one looked like Ayana from Rainbow Six Siege after her pick rate ran into the trash and she got her nades taken away from her. I can understand where she went, hard drugs and whatnot, as she was walking along a desolate path. Our 4th occupant, as I finally caught up to him, looked like that one dude from Resident Evil, the son of that one guy from Resident Evil 7. I don't know his name because I'm not a Resident Evil fan. I am just saying this joke, where hopefully the Resident Evil keyword gets picked up. I am a fake cell. I continued moving on into the forest. Hopefully there was an end in sight. There were some red mushrooms right there, and I was not going to pick them and make a cure-all illness soup. I continued to walk forward, and then I found the spatial abyss. I was at the edge of this border, the edge of this world, and with that concluded, I went on to get randomly picked to another world so I can explore it. The third one, to my surprise, was called A Queen's View. Now, this name sounded great. It wasn't a king's view, but that's fine. I'll be a queen for this little segment here. This place was beautiful, coming from a bad bitch that I am. There was butterflies everywhere, trees, violet flowers, ruins, and this cool bright blue light glowing. I continued to walk forward on all these flowers, trampling them and ruining the path, as one should in these VR worlds. This nice sunlight getting in my eyes, I could only assume that was sunlight. For the sake of my sanity, we'll say that I go outside. As I continued walking on, I found the remains of the last person who was on this VR world. Very spooky. Seems that there was a Nordic giant in the Queen's View lobby before. Maybe the butterflies are actually flesh-eating monsters and they cannibalized him. Who really knows? Once again, me exploring has led me to finding a crime scene. Luckily, this one was digital, so I can just hurry on and scurry out of there. No DNA left behind. Good thing I wasn't gooning. I passed through these doors and I was greeted to these 3 tomes of power, a blue, a green, and an orange one. I didn't know what they did. I didn't want to click on them. I was too scared to find out. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't work because of how outdated the world was. You know me, I would have took all 3 of those tomes of power. I found the Queen's throne, or what remained of it. Clearly a carnivorous plant had taken over this entire place. I'll assume the Nordic skeleton was the Queen beforehand. This was her throne with the flower on top. I continued to walk back since this was a very short world. Nothing of importance, but it was a really nice view. I decided to try and go to a king's view because, I'm a man. I'm not a queen. I'm a king. But it wasn't letting me. Clearly, this world was way too outdated because the tomes of power didn't work, so the portal didn't work. Luckily, I wasn't stuck here. I had a way out. I hit the randomizer and I went on to the next randomly assigned world, leaving behind these carnivorous butterflies to feast on the skeletal remains of the queen. It was none of my concern. The next world that VRChat chose for me was called Graham Snacker's something. I forget the name of the title. Now, this was a weird world. I didn't know what I was expecting. I loaded in, and there was a plastic candle greeting me, my only form of light in this Graham house of madness that I spawned into. I didn't know what to do, so I jiggled it a little bit, and then I decided to keep moving. I went through the doorway here, and I continued to find another candle, and then I fucking jump scared myself with my own reflection in VRChat. If I was recording this, my audio, you would have heard me scream. All right, I genuinely did scare myself. I looked at myself in the mirror here, gawking at my infinite form, and then I continued moving on. I went up these Graham stairs, and another candle, and then I finally jumped down as there was nothing to see, and lo and behold, I was in the back rooms. Now there's a single strawberry on a plate in the back rooms. This was completely out of place. I was expecting something scary to come around that wall and possibly grab me or something, or stomp on me to death. Luckily that never happened, so I just waited in this infinite abyss, the only fear being the one that I made for myself here. As there wasn't much to do here, I decided to get out of here while I still could. I decided to hit the randomizer, and lo and behold, it put me onto another world. This time, the world was called The Pit. Now this one sounded somehow even more ominous than the last one that I was in. I was greeted to The Pit in the Mr. Beast font. This world was going to be great. Mr. Beast font and an anime lady all by her lonesome. No cameras around, so I did the one thing that this world said to do. I break the seal in the middle and fall into the pit. Now, hopefully there was more to this, but to my dismay, this was the only thing that you could do, was infinitely fall into these pits. Now, eventually, after 5 minutes, it would change the wall scenery that you fell into. I spent a good 2 hours in this world, infinitely falling, hoping there'd be some quirky joke at the end that was worthwhile. Eventually, I got super bored, though, after waiting for quite literally 2 hours, an hour and 58 minutes to be exact here. So I decided to hit the randomizer, and I went to another world. Now, this world was called Moonlight Manor. This place sounded, quaint, quiet, with a rabbit on the front. I was expecting a snowy cabin in the Alps, something nice, something chill. I had just gotten done falling to my infinite doom for the last 2 hours here, so I needed a place to rest, something to recuperate and focus on the mission ahead. To my dismay, I joined in, and I could instantly tell this was a nightclub. Now, this nightclub was not like any other nightclub I'd been in, because I hadn't been in a nightclub before, this being my first in a VRChat digital world. I didn't know what to do, so I continued walking forward, the only thing in my head at the time. Now, this place was decked out, alright? There was bright lights everywhere. I didn't know what to do, so I kind of smuggled myself into the backstage here. I don't think I was meant to. And I started, picking out these emojis right here, everyone's favorite emojis. The Marshmallow Music Man. I chose violence, some moaning emoji, some stoner emoji, a Pepe Le Frog, the yes emoji, some anime girl holding a no sign, a drink it emoji, the clown emoji, aka me, the poop emoji, and other various emojis that I will not sit here and name. I decided to bounce around a little bit, and then finally I entered. You know, my name had been called, and to my surprise, the place was bumping. Now, I can't play the music in here because this video will get taken down from what was playing. Just imagine the most nightcore song that you can think of, and that's basically what was going on here. And I decided to take a look around. This place was abandoned. I was the only one here. You know, this seemed like a chill hangout spot. There were still some lit cigarettes, some lit cigars, so the people who left weren't gone for long. I decided to explore around, and then I dropped my cigar on the floor here, ruining it, unfortunately, and, well, when I saw on the walls made me drop my cigar again, this place was no nightclub. This was a furry ERP place that I stumbled into. Well, I feel like Jesus walking into the city of sinners, the city of Gomorrah, and the other one that I forget the name of. I did not feel welcome in this place anymore, so I decided to grab a blunt and then be a stoner. Just kidding, I'm not into that lifestyle, I'm employed. So I decided to hop around after dropping my dubious doogie on the floor. This place was set in some cosmic area with the moon, so clearly we're in space or something, some Futurama-esque thing. Speaking of the future, we had Roxanne Wolf and the one FNAF character in this photo here. Clearly a lot of ERP was going on in this place. Luckily, none of it going on while I was here. Ghosts of the past did haunt this place. If you could smell in VR, we already know this place would smell like a fish market. That's all I'm going to say. All right. I continued on walking through these doors. There's more furry stuff tattered on the walls. Sleepy Bear the Slump God. That's just wonderful. You know, somebody put that on my tombstone if I ever die doing this. I walked up another flight of stairs and I was greeted to these VIP rooms. I managed to break into the first VIP 1 room and I was greeted to a bed. I'm glad this place has housekeeping because these bed sheets would have been stained to high hell. However, they were still pure white. The future of technology in all its glory. I looked up on the bed here and it said simp above my head. I was not happy about that, so I decided to loot the cigarette ashtray, we'll go with. And I found a prize, and I found an opium pipe. Now, I was a happy little camper in this bed. I was pretending to be a shark in the sheets. Yeah, I don't get out much. After playing in the mirror for what seemed like eons, I decided to finally get out of there and go to the next room. I was here to explore, not play with myself in the mirror. Looking at the adoring wall decoration of everyone's furry avatar, it'd be hilarious if this was just one dude posing multiple times. I tried going to these VIP rooms, but I think they were occupied at the moment. Unfortunately, I could not break in and see what was going on. I continued to the left hallway, and I was greeted to this pool. Now, this pool was nice, alright? It was bumping. One might even say it was hip, alright? I decided to go into the pool, and right away, I knew that this thing was a safety hazard. There's no connecting stairs to get out, and there's no ladder in the other end. So if someone comes in here while they're high or drunk, they're most likely drowning. So the owner of this place, I would highly recommend you either make it more shallow or you put in a ladder. Because if somebody dies, that is a fat lawsuit to your VRChat business. I finally made it into the mandatorial suite. I locked the door behind me, and I put on the privacy setting. I was going to goon. Nah, just kidding. I was here to investigate. I found another opium pen, so there might be a drug ring going on in this place, who really knows. I decided to pull a BoJack Horseman here. After doping up on opium, I drowned myself in the pool. And with that being said, on to our next random VRChat world. After taking a while for it to load, something must have happened to VRChat, because now it put me in something called La Costa Furry. Coming from another furry place to another furry place, I was kind of tired of it. I'm going to be honest. I was not happy about this at all. I didn't need more ERP furry places, this time being Cuban or Brazilian. You know, who knows what was going on here. You know, this could be the place that was supplying the drugs to this nightclub. Perhaps this was the furryified Pablo Escobar's hideout that I was now loading into. I didn't come armed, so if anything happened, this video would have never been public. However, luckily, these worlds were abandoned. The crimes that had taken place had already happened eons ago. I was just a humble observer. Upon spawning in, everything was in Spanish. I only understood half of it, the English parts, I should say. I don't speak Spanish. I turned on low quality on accident with my fat fingers, and I wasn't able to turn it off, so for the rest of this VR world, if it looks low quality, that's my fault and not the owner's fault of La Costa Furry. Someone who speaks Spanish, can you tell me what that means? I don't feel like translating it, sorry. Alright, I finally got off the dock here, and I was greeted to this creature. that was laying on a blanket. I decided to grab it. All right, as my slogan goes, no man left behind. Yeah, these rocks were looking like rocks, I guess we'll go with, and I tried reading the rules. Now, since I don't speak Spanish, they didn't apply to me. I couldn't understand them, so I was free to do my own thing. Hell, I could trash this place if I wanted to. My lawyer said it was okay. There's a bunch of ads on the wall, so I kind of wish I could burn this place down, however I can't. I went into the first room here on the right, passing this pool table, and I was greeted to some AI-generated Instagram and TikTok self-promotion posts on the wall. Now, I decided not to blur them here, so you guys could gawk at this as well. I was stumped. You know, where exactly am I? What am I doing here? There were some games that I tried playing here. This one called Horse Race caught my eye. Maybe I could race people. Wasn't working though, unfortunately. I tried playing everything. I tried playing Shitty, I tried playing Full Circle, and I tried playing Horse Race. After giving up on playing those 3 games, I found this photo of a bunch of maids. Now the hilarious thing could be that it's one dude. After trying to play instruments and failing, since I have hooves and not fingers, I decided to move on to the next room, going left instead of right. I continued up, passing the couch, and there was more of these toys laying around, these plushes. There was another photo on the wall. Could Pablo Escobar furry-fied be in this photo? No, I don't know any of these people. Another photo was taken here, another photo frame. This looks like an intimate action, so I didn't want to dwell on. There's another photo on top of the shelf here that I couldn't interact with. I decided to hit this plus and minus. This was another mirror. I had fallen into another vanity trap, and I decided to look at myself in the mirror, this time not for an hour and just a couple of minutes. After turning on all of the minigames and then turning them off, I was trying to play Cartas. You know, that sounded exciting. I decided to try and play Horse Race again. Maybe this table worked. I had full aces, alright. I don't play a lot Cartas, so I don't know what that means. I decided to try and grab another card, and they just kept giving me wooden slabs. After getting fed up, I turned off Cartas. I decided to play Roulette de Botella. This looks like something that you have to have friends to understand, so I didn't understand what it was. I think this was a more intricate version of Spin the Bottle. A drink if you're single. Luckily, I wasn't playing with anyone here. I would have downed the entire bottle. I decided to give it a spin. You know, let's see what it lands on. I was then taken to a random world called Eat Bolga Broadway Stage. I had no clue what this was. Who's Bolga, and why do we have to eat him? I loaded in here, and I read what was on the board here. This world was made to be a Pinoy Hanoi game world, but since the web panels are dead, that's, you know, dead VRChat world, so this makes sense, alright. This world, blank blank, into just a scenery. Another update, Eat Bolga moved to a new studio named APT, hence this world is already outdated in looks. However, it's always nice to look back to the past, right? I could not agree more. I was a noir detective in the 1950s, or at least that's what I was LARPing as. After reading all this, I turned to my left and I was greeted to an unconscious anime girl. I didn't know what happened here. Perhaps she was murdered by Furry Cuban Escobar? I wanted to check her pockets as well, and I went to go see, and then boom.
Like, they arrest you, and they bring you to court, and they fine you, and they label you a sexual predator for the rest of your life.
That was a very bad angle. I had to, you know, get out of it. I decided to go up to the Eat La Bolga stairs here. Well, this place was pretty outdated. I could see why this place was left in the past. There was not a lot to do here. Going up these marble stairs, there was another stage, and I decided to see if there's anything on the stage, perhaps a clue left behind by La Costa Furry Cuban Escobar, or whatever his name may be. I've already forgot it. To my dismay, nothing was left behind. I needed to try and catch up with Furry Cuban Escobar. I needed to stop this man before he could incapacitate another harmless anime woman. I think I was still on his trail. However, I got thrown off as VRChat randomizer put me onto Johnny's room. I had no clue who Johnny was. However, I was about to break and enter into his house, and perhaps I would meet with Johnny. Maybe Johnny was a cool dude. Perhaps he could help me take down Furry Cuban Escobar. After all, I needed backup if this guy had already killed 73 people. What I was greeted to left me in abysmal horror. This was a Gunner cave, alright. There was a white monster. Well, I was the white monster in this room. Now there was 2 white monsters in this room. The engineer from TF2 was kidnapped and forced to dance on top of these cigarette cases here. There was a gun left on the table. There's a bunch of anime people everywhere, and Johnny O'Toole, Johnny 22. Perhaps this man was obsessed with a lady named Johnny. Who knows? There was more white monster on top of his fridge and an AK in the corner. This man had a lot of guns. I decided to try and smash up his place with the butt of the AK, however there's no collision physics. He had another flag, I don't know what that flag is. And they had all these patches on the wall. Now I have to blur this because there is a lot of uncensored stuff on this wall, and as you can tell, there is a lot of uncensored stuff because I stared at it for way too long. This was a Gooner cave, and I had fallen for the Gooner bait. After finally breaking free from that evil curse, I was greeted to another evil curse, the California Republic flag. I grabbed this hat and decided to float up. Perhaps we were on the moon, there was no gravity here, or somewhere in space. Perhaps I was even closer, or back to the nightclub in another secret room. Speaking of secret rooms, I went through the door here and I was greeted to a lot of revealing fan art of Jenny O'Toole or Jenny22, whatever her name may be. I can't show that either, so I'll have to blur that. I went back to Johnny's room here to see if there was any evidence, any clues of what this dastardly do-gooder is doing. There's more guns in his gun cabinet. Luckily, there was only a child lock. Luckily, I wasn't a child, so I could easily break past this lock. I stole another gun, a Kark 98, I believe, and I tried to shoot at the Jenny O'Toole art on the wall. I don't know what I was doing here, or perhaps I was lost in a maniac Gooner rage. I lost my composure as I once again fell for more Gooner bait. Luckily, I broke free though, and I hit the randomizer on the world just before I almost fell into another trance. Hell, we could have been here for a whole nother hour. After breaking free from Johnny O'Toole's sneaker room, I was randomly teleported to a place called Swaggin's Lair. I'm once again breaking into somebody's humble abode. Now this place was weird, and I don't have much to say here, so I'll let this place speak for itself.
Oh, I smelled something. Something tiny and tasty. Better start running up that staircase because I'm going to get you.
Now that dragon's mouth was way too detailed, so I think I already know what I'm in right now. I'm in a very dastardly, no good area, so I need to get out of here. Luckily, there was a way out, this stairs. Hopefully this would lead to my salvation. I was panicking here. I was not about to get eaten by Furry Pablo Escobar's dragon that he kept as a pet. This thing was probably filled up on so many drugs, and I kept going up these stairs in a panic frenzy. Once again, if I had my audio here, you would hear me panicking. After finally running up the stairs, I was blockaded. There was nowhere else to go, and I had to watch in abysmal horror as this creature kept closer to me, and I was hoping the chandelier would be my shield. You know, it would keep me safe from the dragon here. I did not want my search to end. Thank you for watching. That's going to do it for this video. I have no clue where I'm at right now, and hopefully I can get out of here in VR. Worst comes to worst, I'll just turn off my computer, but yeah, I have no clue where I'm at right now. The joys of random VR worlds. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for watching. If you do enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe.
How can I say this and still sound cool?